In 2013, Guillermo del Toro did a gigantic monster and robot movie that everybody loved. This sci-fi story was something else when we talk about this genre of movies. And since the franchise has 2 movies behind it, there's no surprise that fans are impatiently waiting for a movie to complete the trilogy.
How far'd you get?
About 7 steps. Take or leave.
How far'd you get?
About 2 steps and I blacked out from the strain.
Well, this is mostly because of the failure of the second one. So stay here and find out all the details about the potential Pacific Rim 3 movie. Let's start with a quick recap of what happened in the previous 2 movies. In the past decade, we've seen some incredible pieces of work from legendary pictures, such as Godzilla and King Kong. But their Pacific Rim movie in 2013 was maybe their masterpiece. When the movie was released, there was a thought that this would be a whole new franchise. But it stalled with only a sequel in 2018, when Pacific Rim Uprising came on the big screens. Since then, the third movie remains unannounced. But since it took 5 years between the first 2 movies and it's 2023, maybe this is the lucky year for every Pacific Rim fan out there. The saga about the massive alien monsters called Kaiju, which started emerging from an interdimensional portal at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean and attacking coastal cities, in its first appearance at the theaters, was directed by the movie mastermind Guillermo del Toro. So there is no doubt why this sci-fi succeeded to win over the audiences so quickly. And not just sitting in the director's chair, Del Toro also did the screenplay for the movie. Those monsters I mentioned before are not something that we've already seen in this kind of movie before. It's impossible to beat them with ordinary weapons like guns and cannons. To save their homeland, humanity will create gigantic humanoids called Jaegers, which are controlled by 2 pilots linked with machines mentally. This is how humanity will be saved after the first Kaiju attack, even though the giant monsters will take millions of lives. But things change, and so do the monsters, who will adapt to the humans' humanoids, and the mechas just won't be enough to kill them. To protect, humanity will build walls, but their robots will be destroyed quicker than they are built. Besides the problems, Pentecost, the man who is in charge of the Jaeger program, will decide to continue working on their improvement program. Meanwhile, Raleigh Becket, who is a former pilot of the American Jaeger Gypsy Danger, is still traumatized after losing his brother Yancey. These 2 protected Anchorage from a Kaiju attack in 2020. But after Becket lost his brother, he left the piloting program. However, Pentecost will manage somehow to recruit Becket again, and he will also find an assistant pilot and a girl named Mako for him. Together, they will drive the legendary Jaeger from the past, and they will become the only hope for humanity. And I hope this is enough to remind you how the story went in for the first movie, which, by the way, managed to make a revenue of over $411 million worldwide, with a budget between $180 and $200 million. And Del Toro's story was just a piece of this success, as the movie brought together some great movie stars like Idris Elba, Ron Perlman, and Charlie Hunnam. 5 years later in real time, or 10 years after the events in the first movie, humanity will have to stand once again against the mounting apocalypse. This time, the story follows Stacker Pentecost's son, Jake, and he hit that like button below the video right now. No, really, the young Pentecost will have a chance to live up to his father's legacy and fight against the mighty monsters, which will again come from the depths of the ocean. At first, Jake is nothing like his father. He earns a living by stealing Jaeger's parts and by selling them on the black market. The year is 2035, and it's been 10 years since the Battle of the Breach and the closure of the interdimensional portal. One day, Jake will bring a disabled power core of a Jaeger to the secret workshop of Amara Namami, a 15-year-old Jaeger enthusiast, but they will be discovered by the Pan-Pacific Defensive Corps and arrested. Faced with a prison penalty, Jake will be forced to return to the PPDC as an instructor, with Amara being his recruit. This is more than enough retelling, and I hope it was interesting for those who still haven't seen the movies. Now, let's see if there's any news about the potential third movie, which fans are impatiently waiting for. Well, after Pacific Rim Uprising failed to wow critics or to connect with the audience like the first movie did, any development on a third film ceased by now. The second movie was directed by Stephen S. DeKnight, and it wasn't as close to successful as Del Toro's first movie. With a budget of 150 to 176 million, the movie managed to gross only 290 million. And according to Deadline Hollywood, this wasn't even close to the 350 million that was needed for the movie to break even. However, we can't say that the first movie was that worse. Let's just say that they could do so much better. The energy of the first film wasn't recaptured, even with the Netflix animated series Pacific Rim: The Black. Even though the series was going for 2 seasons, it didn't build much viewership. But we can't say that the further projects are dead, as there is no official announcement about that. So at least we can hope that anytime soon the people in Legendary Pictures will decide to revive the franchise with a third movie. Until then, you can always rewatch the previous 2 films, at least the first one, which is definitely worth rewatching. And who can we expect to return or show up in the cast crew for the potential third movie? Well, since we don't have any information about who could play, we definitely know who won't return. One of them is Jin Zhang, the guy who played Marshal Quan, who was killed by the Jaeger drone missile. Also, we probably won't see any more both mechas Baylor Omega and Titan Redeemer, as they were destroyed by the Jaeger Kaiju hybrids. On the other hand, we could see Mako Mori once again, even though she died in the second film. According to what the director Tonight said on one occasion, Mako's story would be explored in a third film, and she takes a huge part in his concept. Her storyline was far from complete, said Tonight. The character was portrayed by the actress Rinko Kikuchi, and she was killed when a missile hit the helicopter that she was flying with. The main hero in the movie was portrayed by John Boyega. And smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell below the video. No, really, fans hope to see the young actor again, as he has a lot more potential in him than he showed in Uprising. Besides Boyega, 2 more names were notable: Charlie Day as Dr. Newton Geisler and Scott Eastwood as Nate Lambert. All of these deserve another chance to fix the impression in front of the audience and to show that this franchise has a lot more to give in the future. And I almost forgot to mention Amara Namani, Jake Pentecost recruit, the character that was portrayed by Kaylee Spaney, who also deserves to be among the shortlisted for the next film. And if the third film finds its way to the big screens, what can we expect from the plot? It's a fact that nobody can overcome Del Toro's job with the first Pacific Rim movie. But it would be damn hard to bring him back once again in this franchise, since the director stated that he has no plans at the moment to revisit this field. Even though he shared an interest in seeing a MonsterVerse and Pacific Rim crossover on social media, he then disappointed the fans by telling them that this is not an idea for a third film. Steven Tonight, on the other hand, in October of 2017, spoke about the possibility of a third film to be released in the future, even though, back then, Pacific Rim Uprising still wasn't released. If enough people show up to this, we've already talked about the plot of a third movie and how the end of the third movie would expand the universe to a Star Wars or a Star Trek style, where you can go in many different directions. That's the plan, Tonight said back then. In the end, we have to be satisfied that the franchise is not still dead. There's always a possibility that the danger of the depths will awaken. Until then, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.